Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Daddy Issues. Today we got a guest, Justin, on, and he's going to talk a little bit about his story and kind of what he went through. He's, fighting real hard to get his kids. He has his kids, and it's a pretty powerful story. So, hope you guys like it.
Long story short, at the end of it all, I'm a father of three kids. I have a 19-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old, all of which still live with me. That wasn't the case this time 4 years ago. Admittedly, me and both baby mama have been an addict for quite a few years of our lives, almost, my 19-year-old son's whole life. So, I'm definitely without fault or blame. I own up to it. You have to, and you have to embrace it. But I've been clean 4 years. No, actually 5 years, 3 months now. So, one thing I do want to say is if I can do it, anybody can.
Yeah.
If anyone's struggling, just get help.
And now, when did that have any effect in court when you guys went to court?
We lost the kids. Both kids were, the two younger ones were in foster care for about 2 years. I still had DCP&P is what they call it out here, involvement up until last year. A lot of the case remained open, not because of me, but because mom was refusing services. So, the backstory is I was a landscape tree climber by as profession, and I fell 30 feet out of a bucket truck. So I was paralyzed for two of these last years. From 2015 to 2018, I was paralyzed from the waist down.
No way.
I'm about 85% back. I still walk with a cane.
Yeah.
A lot of what happened, getting hooked had stemmed from me being on the medications. And then she started stealing my medications. I'd come up short, and we just ended up developing a habit from there.
Yeah.
One thing went to another. We just became raging pillheads. It could have been worse, could have been heroin, coke, crack, stuff like that. But, that stuff, starts to drain you, mentally, it physically wears on you, stuff like that.
And you still have all your kids during that time when you were paralyzed?
Yeah. We had the kids. We were in active addiction. I don't think family members could really tell. We maintained. I had a lot of money come in because of disability back pay. She was still working. I mean, we never really had the kids, in our opinion, never had the kids in harm's way other than the fact that we were intoxicated.
Yeah.
Kids never wanted or needed for anything, things like that, but it could have gotten there. And that's what leads me to what happened. So after about 4 years of addiction, I was looking at what I was really causing her. I saw the pain in her life, and I decided I want to change. So I forced us to go to the hospital and just be honest and, look for help. So that started a journey of both of us, going our separate ways and trying to seek recovery. During that time, my 19-year-old ended up with my mom, but she couldn't handle all the kids. My mom's a little bit older. I'm 39. My mom's 88 now.
Yeah.
So she couldn't handle them all. So the two boys that I now have ended up going through the foster system. They always had contact with the family. Their grandmom.
And they stayed together?
Right. Yes.
In the foster
and they were lucky. We were lucky. We were very lucky. We ended up, see, a lot of people will talk down on social services and whatnot. And I did when they got involved initially, and I did during it. But looking back, I mean, they worked hard to keep the kids together. They worked hard to make sure that the kids were connected to family still.
Yeah.
They, visitations, even when I went away. So I ended up going away for about 8 months for rehab. She got cleaned up for about a week. She met a guy, got together with him, and continued her rampage. Well, this guy turns out to be a convicted, not child like sex offender, but he harmed one of his own children years back by burning her hand over the hot stove. And so he was convicted. So mom's doing good. I'm doing good. Mom ends up going back on the hook, and now she's with this guy. I steadfast, decide that I need a little more help because I can't deal with this shit. And, I went and started doing outpatient mental health. And from there, I kind of got really stable, and mom continued down her rabbit hole. Mom got clean again for about 3 months. Every time mom would go on a binge, mom would ghost the kids in the essence of DCP&P, which is social services again, would be looking for her for visits, and she wouldn't
Damn.
respond. She wouldn't show up to the visits. And, I don't know what the difference is between her and I and why we both couldn't find what's called the rock bottom, but I found rock bottom and tried to climb out. She found it, and it looks like she's still digging a deeper hole.
Yeah.
We haven't seen or heard from her in 4 years.
I mean,
She lives
that's
a mile
unbelievable.
away.
That's unbelievable.
She lives a mile up the street.
Yeah.
A mile up the street. We pass the house. We see her. She looks horrible. The case is being closed this week, actually, because they finally gave up on trying to get her.
Right.
But to backtrack a little bit, she did get about a month and a half clean, and it was time for the kids to start going back for visitations. One of the conditions of her visitation is that gentleman that she met was not to be around the kids within like a determined distance because of his past convictions.
Yeah.
Mom decided to get the kids, have the visitations, but force them to lie, threaten them with punishment or not getting Christmas gifts and things like that. I was a single man, sober and clean, having the time of my life. Let me tell you, I was more financially stable than I ever been.
Yeah.
And, to that nature, I get a call. Hey, mom's got visitation. You are seeming more stable than her. You have your own place, blah, blah, blah. We'd like to keep the kids out of foster care. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because they've only been back with her for 2 weeks. Well, and then they proceed to tell me that she tested dirty again and that the gentleman was there. I was enraged.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then that's how I found out what his prior was. I didn't know prior to this. I met the gentleman. I was as cordial as could be with the man that was screwing with my baby mom. We were never married, thank God.
Yeah.
But we were together for 15 years. So this guy, is around my children. She allows this type of man around my children.
How old?
So they take it.
How old were the two children that were around them? Because the 19-year-old was with your mother.
Yeah. So they were. Let me think. Let me see if I'm correct on this. They were 6.5, 7, and then around I want to say 8.5 when this all started.
Okay.
So they did like really do 18 months like completely away from us and someone else's care.
Yeah.
But during that 18 months, I mean, my mom would take them for weeks at a time, things of that nature. So, and then I went through the whole process. They don't let you get your kids back easily. I'll tell you that.
For sure. Yeah.
I had to prove mental stability. I had to prove ongoing sobriety. I still had to for years after. I piss tested weekly.
Yeah.
But, those hurdles are there for a reason. And,
Absolutely.
I think a lot of those hurdles are what kept me to be able to maintain, to be honest with you. So long story, even, a little less longer, I got temporary custody granted for that weekend. They came and they talked to me about what the terms and conditions would be if I would possibly want to get the kids. And a lot of those conditions were to comply to like hair follicle testing instead of just piss testing, going to what's called an IOP, which is an intensive outpatient program, making sure that you have your mental stability and finding gainful employment. Me being a little paralyzed, it was hard, but I ended up working for a company called Wawa, which is a chain of convenience stores.
Yep.
And I'm a cashier. So I collect part-time disability and, I do that part-time. Then the kids came back 2 years ago, about 2 years ago next Tuesday. They came back permanently with me. During those 2 years, I still had to submit to drug tests, mental health, prove that I take my medications.
Yeah, they want to make sure.
Yeah, so I had to do all that to get my children back. All she had to do was have a week clean. So the court system seems to be a little leaning one way.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, there's a law that they have to try to keep A, the children with the mother as much as possible, and B, if they can't, with the family as much as possible before they do any like permanent removals.
Yeah.
She said has not submitted or talked to any of the children for the last 4 years. And I can tell you the date and time because it was her son's birthday. The 9-year-old's birthday is the last time that we saw her.
And how are the kids taking that at that young age too? I mean, like that has to be hard.
So my 9-year-old is in therapy. He's actually been in the mental health unit himself. He's been diagnosed with ADHD and PTSD from, this. So, it's hard because I know I caused a lot of that.
Right.
But I got him. He's in therapy 2 times a week. He sees a behavioral health counselor one day for 2 hours and in home. And then the next day, he's kind of like just like a social worker and a therapist. And then DCP&P checks in monthly.
Wow.
Over time, that became less and less of a check-in, more of I have to do my job. And it says I have to come physically see you once a month. And then, the 11-year-old dealt with it, what we thought was fine, but started expressing different type of just outbursts, just blatantly disrespectful, would blatantly look you in the eyes and lie to you. You could tell he had a lot of trust issues.
Yeah.
So, here we go. So I got him services too. So now they both see the same people. I have, opened my house up to these therapists and social workers. It's, you got to do what you got to do. I own it. But I don't want them to go through a iota of anything I went through.
Right.
I grew up in the social service system from the age of 6 to 18. I aged out. I had a mother that was an addict and killed herself.
Yeah.
So I know how easily with, some might disagree, but I believe that addiction is indeed a, disease, and I believe that it's passed on. So my sons are not permitted to take the traditional ADD, ADHD medications. There will be no narcotics in this house, period, at all, for their safety and mine. And I will say
awesome.
I did do the Suboxone program to maintain sobriety for 2 of my 4 years, but now I just take a shot once a month and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, that takes a lot because, addiction is unbelievably hard to beat. And for your ex to, I don't want to be harsh here, but abandon, her 3 kids.
That's the reality. It's not harsh. That's the reality. So, but she made that decision early on in the process where I made sure that I went somewhere that I was locked away for a long period of time with no access to it, so that by the time I did get out, I had a fighting chance.
Yeah. Yeah. That is hard. I mean, my brother was an addict and alcoholic, and he lost the fight. He was too deep in and he couldn't get out. So it's like, totally understand, congrats to you for really, taking that on. And now you're thinking about the kids. You're not even, it's not really about you. It's, how are my kids going to grow up? I don't want them to grow up in that environment and situation. So, you're giving them the help they need.
Not at all. And now, like I said, I was, enjoying the single life, quite enjoying the single life. Having that. And then I ended up with these 2 boys suddenly, and I didn't have much of an income. I didn't have, we were in a 1-bedroom. It was a decent area, thankfully, and it's a school district that the children have to walk to, and I can't even walk half the time.
Right.
So, there's been a lot of struggles, but getting them back initially started with, visitations, then overnights. And then, it finally went to, look, you're doing a good job. Here you go. To now, case is closed. I'm free to do what I want.
That's
Mom has
awesome.
been stripped of all parental rights. If indeed she does choose to want to have a visit, I am the only approved supervisor.
Yep. Yeah. And now is she still with that guy? Do you know? Or, I guess it's been 4 years. So
absolutely, we know.
Yeah.
We know
Okay.
as a
Wow.
fact she's still with that. She posts with him on Facebook.
Yeah.
She doesn't pay child support because of 2 issues, I believe. A, I don't think she can maintain a job long enough because of her addiction. They caught up with her last month, and she got locked up because of the areas that she's behind. She's behind about $15,000.
I was gonna ask, because no matter what, that back child support will pile up.
Yeah.
And I was wondering,
So they locked her up for a week,
Wow.
and part of the policy out here now is that they drug test everybody coming in. So if they're coming off of something that could kill them, like Valium or like a benzo or alcohol, those withdrawals can kill you. Opiates just make you wish you were dead.
Jesus.
So she popped dirty again. So we know as a fact that she's still actively using.
Yeah.
I thank God every day that she's still alive, even though I don't really want her around or in the kids' lives. I don't want that crushing news to be delivered.
Right.
And then the one thing I want to add is, and this is just to show how much of a POS that she really is. the one child, the 11-year-old, is not even mine. He's
Oh, he's
technically
not
a
yours.
stepchild.
Oh, wow.
Not at all. No. And he's not that guy's either. She doesn't know who he is.
And so you got full custody of him as well.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that happen? The other dad or whoever the dad is just obviously isn't in their life, but
she doesn't know who he is. She
Wow.
can't narrow it down. Yeah. And I took her back after that.
yeah.
I mean, we had it all. We had dog, the white picket fence, the two vehicles, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we did maintain it, but once we went on our journey to recovery, we kind of lost it all.
Yeah.
And then there was no getting back together. She didn't want the help. She said that she was comfortable with the way she lives her life. And,
Wow.
you know, that now I have no respect for her. I have no respect for her. There's, you know, stories and speculation that this guy's beating her. At first, you know, I wanted to intervene. I wanted to do something about it just because she's the mother of my children.
Right.
And then found out that she just keeps running back. So what's the point of getting involved?
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff's hard too, especially when they can't let go. So it's like, you know, I'm going to help and then you're just going to do the same thing again.
Yeah.
That's
So,
tough.
you know, now with the boys, it's all about routine, stability, and, you know,
Good for
them
you.
knowing that you're going to be there. You know, they are well aware of why I went away. They know what happened. They know that I could have easily been dead. And, you know, they still have problems trusting me. They, you know, they don't like it if I'm behind closed doors. Those trust issues with the family will always kind of be there. I was lucky enough that I never had to beg, borrow, or steal. So I don't have that on me with family and stuff like that. Like a lot of people really, you know, would do anything for their addiction.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I first got them, I was broke as a joke when it comes to raising two kids, no assistance. And it wasn't easy to get assistance. So again, the mom would have had everything in the world handed to her and I had to work.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing volunteer work at a detox center in Camden, New Jersey, which is probably it was been voted the deadliest city in America quite a few times. So I would go and walk the streets and offer people help with Suboxone as part of my volunteering there. And I met a lawyer who happened to have a addiction, and I ended up helping him get sobriety. He ended up helping me get my kid. Yeah.
Well, that's a great deal. So I was going to ask you with the court system and like, was it tough? Did you have to pay a lot of money or?
Absolutely. I owe him still about $5,000.
Yeah.
But just in like fees and processing and fining, they fine you if you miss a test, stuff like that. I had to pay for my own mental health stuff. I had no insurance at the time.
Damn. Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of thanks goes out to my mom for her support. This is the last chance I'll ever get with family, though.
Yeah.
So, you know, you gotta remember that as well. And then it was a lot more hard work. It's just doing the research and the diligence and not being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And you know, I've given people in this dad group money before with no questions asked, and not being, you know, wanting to be paid back. Hopefully it wasn't being used for the wrong things, but I try to give back now as much as I can because I want to see other addicts get what I have, and B, single fathers. I see the struggle all the time. I sat in those courtrooms enough to see that the mom is by default, at least here in Jersey, entitled to a lot more help and resources than the father is.
It seems like it's everywhere.
The father has to work 10 times harder.
Yeah.
She didn't have to submit to as many drug tests I had to. I don't think she ever had to submit one hair follicle test. You know, you might be able to fool them, you know, use it a little bit during the week and then clear your urine up. But hair follicle test goes back. You're not fooling them with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen it where even with support. So when I was on child support back in 2008, I was paying around $800 a month, which isn't crazy, but it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
I get $67 in child support if she even pays it. That's what they gave me.
Yep. Yeah.
$800 a month to $67. What am I going to do with two growing boys and a 19-year-old whole man in my home who
Yeah.
does at work full time now. He helps me with the kids. He
That's
helps me
awesome.
because, I'm still disabled. He was there through it all. He saw a lot of shit he shouldn't have seen, but you know what? He's my biggest supporter,
Yeah.
and he's probably the biggest help I have in this,
That's
to be
awesome.
honest with you.
That
So,
and your mom for sure. For 88 years old
mom,
to take a child in, congrats to her.
remember, we're talking about a foster mom because, like I said, I was in the adult system. So this is
Yeah.
a woman that I was only a foster child.
Right. So,
wow. Yeah. And that's a lot to do with why I took on my stepson. He didn't know anyone else as a father figure. I was dad, and I'll forever be dad.
Yeah.
And next month, I will be getting his name legally changed so that his last name matches mine.
Yeah. So he that will make him really too feel like, part of the family, and it is what it is.
Well, he didn't actually know. He didn't know. He didn't. But when I got him, he started asking questions, and one of them was, "Why is my last name different than yours?"
Right.
Wasn't gonna lie. My kids are sarcastic individuals, and I didn't want him to find out the hard way.
Yeah.
Like that's why you're adopted type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought me telling him and sitting him down and him going through a little bit of grief would be better than him being allowed to longer into his life.
Absolutely,
and
get a bomb dropped on him when he's older.
I will tell you that he absolutely resents his mother for this. Wants nothing to do with her. Right now, I'm cool with that, but I really hope that she someday is able to get her shit together. But she got a lot of hurdles to jump through, but I'm willing to bet that they're going to be easier hurdles than what I had to go through to even get them in the first place.
Right. I mean, I'm also surprised that they almost gave the kids back to her when she had an abuser who, who got charged. That's pretty ridiculous.
It was make and they never followed up. Like she was just going to magically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just okay, I won't have this guy I've been hooking up with and doing drugs with for the last year and a half. I'll just make him move out of his own home.
Right.
Like I don't understand how anybody thought that was, a thing that was going to happen. I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not at all. Where I had to start with once weekly, hourly visits to, it took a process of almost 8 months just to be able to get them. And at that point, I was already clean for 2 years.
Yeah.
And have been able and was proving it to them. And I still had to go through the hurdles.
Yeah.
So, and then this whole health thing, the only thing I'm diagnosed with is PTSD with because of the trauma as a child. So why I had to go on all these medications in the first place is really bullshit, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great, though, that you fought that hard to get back to where you are just for your health, you know what I mean? To be an addict and all that, but then also for your kids. I mean, that's
what?
A lot of fighting.
In the rehabs and whatnot, they say you have to do it for yourself. I didn't do it for myself, and I wouldn't have done it for myself. I did it for them, and I did it for the fact that I don't want my children living like I did. There's no reason for it to be that way. You know what I mean? They didn't experience the traumas I did. They definitely experienced the trauma of having two parents in addiction. I'm sure we neglected some of their needs. I'm sure we neglected them emotionally. I'm sure that us hiding in the room doing drugs while they're watching TV was probably, neglectful. So, I own that. But they always had food, stuff like that. But that's not a justification to do what we were doing by any means.
And to own up to that now, I mean, you fully get it. You know what I mean? Like you totally understand, and congrats to you, man. I mean, that's huge.
Well, you gotta be able to keep it real with yourself. Because if you can't, you're not going to do it with anyone else. And if you can't do it with anyone else, you're not going to get anywhere at all.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's a wild story. And you said you got a week left. And then the case is closed.
Yeah, really just waiting for paperwork.
Yeah.
It's just waiting for the paperwork. And one of the things that they did is, as a last little bit of help, is they actually paid for 2 weeks of summer camp for each kid.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So, cool. If you do have social services involved in your life, they have more resources than you think they do.
Yeah.
And you're entitled to them. Things like bunk beds, food assistance, rent assistance. That's all out there and available through social services and grants, at least in this state. And no one will tell you about it.
Right.
They will not volunteer any of that. they were okay with my kids sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags. And I found out through my attorney that they were able to provide bunk beds.
So they didn't even bring it up knowing that they were in sleeping bags and stuff? Wow.
No. So, you know, a lot of the legal work I did through the attorney guiding me. So he didn't ever really represent. He just gave me sites to read or which statutes to look up and study. And, you know, just different law books from the state, things of that nature.
Yeah.
He didn't want to get involved completely until the end because, you know, he was dealing with his own sobriety. So the final 3 court dates, he did come and represent me, and he fought hard. And, you know, we had all the proof in the world. Without the proof, without the history of the drug test, without being, you know, proven that I went to this day program. They had me in a program where I had to go 4 hours a day to basically like an outside rehab where you go to rehab for during the day and then you go home. I had to do that for almost 6 to 8 months. Damn. While trying to work, while trying to make sure the kids are getting home from school and dinner's put on the table and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I don't know what services mom was offered, but I know they offered her rehab paid for 3 times, and she just chose and chose and chose.
Yeah.
And like I said, we don't hear from her. We don't hear from any side of her family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Damn,
it's like out of sight, out of mind.
But
you know, it's sad, but they have love, they have support now. They have the family. They've got their brothers. They've got each other. They've got my mom. You know, I've got their godfather is my best friend. I've known him for 30 years. We met in high school. I mean, in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And he's their legit like legal godfather. Anything happens to me, and that's where they go. They don't even go to mom.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they all come out and help, but I had to earn that. I really 100%. Had to earn it. I had to prove and work harder to get the people in my lives to trust and respect me again than anything than court was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
if there's anything you could say to somebody, so the other dads out there, I mean, what advice would you give? I know your story is a little bit different than some, but there has to be other people going through the same thing.
Fight.
Yeah.
If you care even 1 iota, fight. Fight for them. Show them you care. Show the system you care. Show the woman that you're going against that you care, because they're going to use everything and anything against you. And the last piece of advice, get everything in writing, document everything. Use an app like we're using right now, record the phone conversations. Don't pay support if it's not in a check, things of that nature. Because anything that they can use against you, they will. And vice versa, you're able to use anything against them. But if you don't do your due diligence and do these types of things, you'll have nothing to hold up in court.
Yeah, that's perfect, because that's a tough thing that people don't understand. I didn't realize it when I was first going through it, and luckily you go back and you have the text messages, you have the emails, but you do have to kind of record all of that stuff. It sucks too. You have to prove, like in my case, I had to prove that I was a good dad. You know, for some reason, like, you know, take photos at the playground, stupid shit like that. But it will help you in court.
But do that. It might seem unnecessary. It might seem extra. It might seem this. It might seem that. But, you know, at the end of the day, take a picture. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. A lot of us give up before we even start the fight because we know how the system is. Yeah. And the system knows that. Moms know this. I mean, women get married knowing that they can take half of what you have when they walk away, and then you still have to keep paying them. Right. Alimony, child support. So fight, especially if you have a significant other that turned out to be like mine. Fight, because you don't want your kids growing up with someone else. It's just that simple. Yeah. You know, so that's it. That's my biggest recommendation is just fight. Show the courts you care. Show them you really care. Because eventually, the truth comes out. Yep. Awesome, man. Well, that was perfect advice, because I tell that every time. I'm just like, do those things. But thank you so much for coming on, man. And yeah, man, no doubt. Congrats. Hopefully this ends in a week and you never have to go through it again. So. Yeah. And, last thing I like to say, if anybody needs advice or just needs to talk, reach out. Well, thank you so much, brother. Yeah, definitely. All right. Have a good one. All right, you too. Later. You can't hold me down. You can't hold me down. You
can't hold me down. You can't hold me down. You can't hold me down.